Hi, this is Stevie. I thought I would do a little sketch today for the holidays, and I had a photo I had taken a few years back of some poinsettias in a little red wagon, and it was so cute sitting in someone's front yard. It was while I was visiting Mission San Juan Capistrano, and it was in a house nearby. And so I have drawn a pencil drawing, and I'm going to ink it in now, and I'm going to speed it up and skip parts, but just to give you an idea of what it's like to ink it in. And I start with the objects that are closest to the front when I sketch this, so I don't have lines crossing over each other. So now I've finished my ink drawing, and I want to clean that paper up a bit before I use watercolor on it. So I'm using a white eraser to get most of the pencil lines off, and then I'll take one more step to get that paper really clean. I'm also going to clean up that paper with a dry cleaning pad, and that'll get my paper nice and clean. So I'm just going around erasing all the pencil lines, but being careful to leave that ghosted image of the radio flyer letters on the side of the wagon. And hopefully that won't show when I get finished. So there's my ink drawing. And there's my dry cleaning pad. That's full of little bits of eraser, and you just drop some on the paper and then rub that pad around. And it's really messy. Usually I do it outside because you have all those eraser bits on your table. But I just wanted to show you how that's used. So I have to clean up that mess. But it works really well to get your paper clean. So there's my clean ink drawing. Now you can see that I'm flicking a little bit of water randomly on the paper, and I like to do that to let the color spread and get some edges that are soft, so I don't have all hard edges all the way around. Even though it's inked in, you can still go outside those lines, and it looks really nice when you do that. So I'm just starting with the red color. That's cadmium red, cad red light, and I put some yellow, that's Hansa yellow medium, in the center of that poinsettia. I just didn't want to forget about that. And some of that yellow color is bleeding out onto the leaves of the poinsettia, but I really like that. Looks nice. I like to mingle color like that. Just going on around. And in the photo, there were some yellow or whitish yellow poinsettias as well. And I'm going to put those in. I'm not sure I'm going to leave them. I don't know how it's going to look. So we'll see how that looks once I get it done. I can make some other decisions if they don't look very good. So just getting that color in. I'm leaving some of those poinsettia leaves at the bottom. I haven't painted those yet because I'm going to paint those green later on. I didn't follow my photo exactly when I drew this because there were many more poinsettias in that wagon than I could fit in this painting, but just to give it the impression of how it looked. Now I'm mixing up a color for the leaves. I believe that is French ultramarine and sap green. And first I'm applying some of my green gold, which is a light yellow green color, and I like to do that just to give some variety on the leaves. So I add the green gold, and there I added some yellow, and then I go over it with the darker green that I mixed. And then I try to get the darker color up toward the red leaves, and then as the leaves move out more away from the flower, then they get lighter in color, lighter green. So I'm looking at this and at those yellow poinsettias that I put in, and I already know that I really don't like that. I just like the red, and I think I'm going to go back and add red to those poinsettias and just to make it more colorful. I like a lot of color. And this is a holiday painting, so I like the red. Now I'm getting in. I move around so that I can give things time to dry. I picked up some quinacridone burnt orange to use for the wooden sides of the wagon. So I'm putting that on. There are some shadows on that as well, on that wood, but I'll have to let it dry before I add those. Now to the wagon itself, I'm back to my cad red light. Nice bright red. A real Christmassy looking color. And I'm just applying that. You can see this is sped up to double time, but it goes pretty quickly when you paint it that way. And notice how I lay my brush down and apply the paint with my whole brush. I lay that brush down and use the belly of the brush when I apply that paint. Now I'm going back, just adding more red color to the poinsettias because I thought they looked a little weak. And cad red light is a funny color. It does tend to lighten quite a bit as it dries. And now I'm going back in on those poinsettias that I had painted yellow and adding my red, and I already like that a lot better. I just like the brighter color. It looked good in the photo, but not so much in the painting. And that's your choice. When you're doing it, you're the artist, and you can paint them however you like. Don't be a slave to your photo. So I'm leaving a little bit of the yellow that I had already painted to give a little bit of variety to those yellow poinsettias, now red. But I like the red a lot better. Now back to the wooden slats. Oh, and first I mixed up a grayish black color. I used French ultramarine and the quinacridone burnt orange, and those are complementary colors. So if I mix them together, I get a dark gray or a black. And I'm just going in, filling in that space between those wooden slats. There was a lot of that, if you look in the photo, a lot of that dark color underneath the poinsettias as well as in between the slats. And I'm going to use that same color now under the wagon to paint the axle and the metal parts there and the tires as well. And I'm trying to, when I paint the tires, because it's a round shape, I want to show the roundness by having lighter and darker areas. So the lighter part of the tires would be on top, and then the darker part of the tire would be on the bottom. And those tires in the back would be dark because they're going to be in shadow before I get finished. And the centers of those tires were white, so I just left that white. And you're just getting back in there with a darker color on the bottom of the tires, leaving the top part a little whiter. There's the side of the tire and then the very top of it. So I was trying to make that distinction with the way that with how much color I applied. And the little red, I don't know what those are called, the center of the hubcap, that I guess it holds the axles on, and that was red. And then I thought I would just put in the tile now, and I mixed up some of my I think I used quinacridone burnt orange and some of my transparent orange, and a little bit of the cadmium red light as well. And just quickly putting that in to indicate that it's sitting on the tile floor, or tile porch, I guess. And I'll probably go back and add a little more color of that too once that layer dries. Now back to the wagon, and that cad red light color had already lightened so much I wanted to get it a little brighter. So I added another layer of the cad red light, and I'll have to let that dry before I go back and put the lettering on. I'm adding some of that gray color to those wheels that are more in the back because that's in shadow. And it's only the two wheel hubcaps in the front that would be the lighter color, the white. And it had a shadow on it. The front hubcap had a shadow on it, so I'm indicating that with some of the gray color. And getting a little bit of shadow on on the back front wheel. And a little bit more shadow color. It's hard to see, but it's just a subtle thing. These are just small details that I'm adding in. So now I have to figure out what area is dry and what area I want to work on. Back to the tile, and I picked up my CAD red light because I wanted to go over a few of the lines in the tile a little bit. I want it to be pretty subtle, not real obvious, but just to show the direction of the tile. So I'm getting that in, just to add a little more interest. And thankfully it doesn't take too long to do this. What I had done there was just to stop and take it over to my heat gun and dry off the paper so that I could keep working. I wanted to make sure that paper was really dry before I used my Posca pen. Posca pen is acrylic ink, and I like these pens for doing lettering like this. That is a Posca pen fine liner, and you can get those online or at Michael's carries, a mini craft store. And I could still see the ghosted image of where I had penciled in that lettering. So I'm just following that and looking at my photo as I put in the lettering for the radio flyer. And I will admit that I spent many years doing calligraphy, so I love to do lettering, and it's really easy for me to do. I think it adds a lot to sketches, and I like to do it as often as I can. And on those Posca pens, just make sure that you shake them up quite a bit before you use them, or the color isn't opaque enough. I shake them for a good 2 to 3 minutes before I apply any color. And they come in different colors, but this is the white. I had forgotten to draw in one of the screw holes on that wooden slat, so I was doing that. And I'm just looking around for what else needs to be done. There was a shadow underneath the wagon, so I'm using my grayish color to... I think what I did was I mixed complementary colors, the ultramarine blue and the CAD red light. Those are complements, and so when you mix those together, actually what it gives you is a very dull looking purple, but more to the gray side, and I like that for the shadow. Just a gray shadow would be kind of dead looking, so I like that kind of a mix. Now I'm using one of my Moonlight Jelly Roll pens, and these are so handy on sketches because they're very bright. This yellow is a very bright color, and I wanted to bump up the color on the centers of those poinsettias, and that little Jelly Roll pen did the trick. That's another thing that I think I bought at Michael's or online. They're just very handy to have in your toolkit. Just extending out that shadow a little bit under the wagon. Now just going back and indicating a few of the veins that are on those poinsettia leaves. I'm not going to do them all. It would take a long time. But just to indicate a few. It's pretty obvious that they're poinsettias, but I just added the veins on a few. And there was a shadow also on those braces holding up the wooden slats on the wagon. And so I was adding the shadow there and on the edges of the slats. And there we have it, my finished painting of the poinsettias and the radio flyer wagon. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and think about subscribing. And thanks so much for watching. Merry Christmas.